Welcome to the It's All Good show. Very excited to present today's guest. His name is Gregg Prescott. He is, in addition to having a Master of Science degree, which we're going to ask him about, he's the founder of N5D.com, Synthesia, and N5D Quantum Tie-Dye. Gotta love that. He launched N5D in 2009 after a galactic download experience inspired him to create the platform. His N5D Facebook and YouTube channels have grown to 370,000 and 146,000 followers, respectively. Gregg is known as a visionary, author, transformational speaker, and event promoter for spiritual and metaphysical conferences in the U.S., and you can follow him on all the major platforms like Rumble, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and others for his latest content and events. And before I bring him on, he recently posted something that caught my attention, and I loved it. And I'm just going to read it the way he posted it. I've been asked why I talk about controversial topics such as politics and exposing Hollywood, or why I choose specific conspiracy theories to bring out in the open, such as 9/11 and chemtrails. But it all boils down to this. At some point, the real truth will surface and reveal that you are an infinite being of light, and your job is to help others awaken to this reality through whatever ethical means possible. In the end, none of this drama really matters. The only thing that truly matters is love. And I read that. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to have Gregg on the It's All Good show. So Gregg, welcome to the show.
Happy belated October 19th birthday, my birthday brother friend.
I love it. There we go. That's good.
Yeah.
Good way to start for this. It's although it's November 4th, I still feel like it's that 30-day birthday month celebration.
Why not?
So, tell me, like you've been no stranger to talking about controversial topics and putting it out there and being a wake-up call for so many people. You and I have met. I followed you for years, and it's I want to hear what's recent for you and what's getting you riled up that you need to get us all riled up about.
Well, yeah, you and I go back a ways. You appeared in two of my N5D conferences, one here in Sarasota and one out in LA, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So we go back a ways, and I remember asking you. You mentioned something about being a Libra, and I said, "Oh, really? I am too." And that's when we found out that we share the same birthdays. Just curious, though, do you know what your moon and rising are?
Oh wow, catching me off guard right now. No, I don't. I don't. I'm not. I'll get back to you on it though.
Okay, because myself, I'm a triple Libra, which means my sun, moon, air, and rising, or sun, air, and rising are all in Libra. Now,
so does that make it easier for you to find balance, or more difficult for you to find balance?
see, a lot of people think that Libras are all about balance, which is true, but we're constantly seeking balance. Because I don't know about you, but I'm like way over here or I'm way over there, and I just dive into things with a full zest. And sometimes I get so buried into whatever I'm diving into, I'll, just work through lunch and dinner. And, so we're all about finding that center of balance. And it can be challenging at times. Have you noticed anything like that?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely it. I definitely did not. Balance doesn't come naturally for me, but I'm always seeking it.
Yep. So any fellow Libras out there could probably attest to that. But yeah, I back in the late early 2000s, I got that galactic download. I was at a point where I was a child and family therapist working for at-risk youth. I had developed a program, a patent pending program for something I wrote that's designed to help families who are at risk of dissolution, children going through the reunification process, and for parents in need of parenting classes. And it got approved here in Sarasota in a three-county area by Heartland for Children. And I was working that religiously throughout the three counties, but I felt like there was something greater, something bigger that I needed to do. And that I specifically remember that one night where I dropped down to my knees and just said, Universe, what is it? And that's when I got that download. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's like it's almost like a hologram of information floods into your head, and you all of a sudden instantly know all this information that wasn't there a fraction of a second beforehand. Even the name N5D was part of that download to build a website, to interview people and go in front of the public. Now, I call myself the king of introverts. On the Myers-Briggs personality test, I'm an INFP. Been that way ever since I started college years ago. So it wasn't easy. And when I got that download, I'm like, Universe, you got the wrong person. I'm an introvert. They go, no, it's you. So I built the website from scratch, HTML, complete scratch. I taught myself how to build through HTML. Now we have WordPress, which makes things a lot easier. But my first website, you can check it out on Wayback Machine, was completely built from HTML by scratch. And that was back in 2008. You appeared in my first N5D conference in I think it was 2014, and then in 2015 as well in Los Angeles. But yeah, I just knew that after I got that download, I already had. It's like, many of us feel like we were born awakened, but it was time to do something greater and put it out there. And despite having, a master's degree and being a child and family therapist, I knew there was something much more I needed to do. This is it. And part of and to answer your question, part of what I do on N5D is I have a section called awareness. Now, I totally get the people who are all about just, staying centered and grounded. And basically, some of the people that bury their heads in the sand and ignore all the stuff that's going on in the world around us, they're actually doing something that's a positive service for humanity. They're holding that space while the rest of us are like diving in. We're waking people up, and we're bringing them over to the spiritual side. And ultimately, what you're going to find out is that the only thing that matters is love, but you have to go through this awakening process beforehand. And that's what I cover on a lot of these topics on my awareness category on N5D.
I love it. It's so important to, the rabbit hole gets deep and slippery, and a lot of people get lost in it. And it's important to bring it back to the heart. So I really appreciate that about you.
Thank you. My wife, Allie, is the same way. She's, we can talk for hours about conspiracy theories, and it's just an awesome kind of relationship when you have that significant other, spouse, wife, girlfriend, whatever, that you have that connection with, that understands you can talk about chemtrails or HARP or, any conspiracy theory that you put out there, and they'll be like, yeah, oh, I heard this about that as well. It's like, oh, okay. And I really like that kind of relationship, having that openness and just understanding with each other about what's going on in the world around us.
Nice. Now tell me, what's on the top of your list as far as where your awareness is going these days and what you're focused on and some of the truths you're digging deeper into at the moment?
God, there's so many. Right,
I want to get, I want to hear this.
Well, the kids, first and foremost, the child trafficking. I'm putting together right now and I was working on it right up until about 15 minutes before we came on. I have a video that I'm putting out that shows the connection between P. Diddy, Jay-Z, Roger Goodell, of the NFL commissioner, and the music selection for the last 5 years, how they're all connected together, all of them. So the woke Roger Goodell and the woke NFL is going to get a little exposed when I'm done with this video, and I'm getting real close to finishing it up.
Nice. Looking forward to that. Talk to us a little bit about the child trafficking. If someone's listening right now, watching this podcast, and they've just skirted around the issue, what would you tell them? What, and what backup and whatnot? I mean, many of us have been talking about this for years and years and years, and it's nice that, in my mind, that it's pushing its way more into people's consciousness because it's real, it's an issue, it's been an issue, and it needs to be addressed.
Exactly. And, I probably should tippy toe around some of this stuff because I don't want your channel getting demonetized or anything on YouTube for these topics. But there's certain words that, they kind of frown upon. So I'll be careful not to mention those.
That's why we back
but
up on Rumble and BitChute. So
right on.
do what you need to do. This is we don't really. I don't like to filter a lot. So I mean, do what you feel is right.
Well, that's what I'm doing with that video that I'm putting out about P. Diddy, Jay-Z, and the NFL. I've got two versions. One's going to be a YouTube friendly version that still gets the word out, but there's going to be a more explicit one on Rumble. So hang in there, check that out when it comes out. But yeah, to me, I've always had an affinity for children. That's why I became a child and family therapist. The greatest joy in the world are children. I have a daughter. She just turned 30, and she'll always be my little pumpkin seed. But she's the same as me. We'll go to the beach, and there'll be children that just run up to us for no reason. Some people, I don't know if it's, you have a great aura and the kids see it and they run. But nowadays, people don't want, oh, don't run up to strangers. But they do that with my daughter and me, and they've always done that. For some reason, I think they see like maybe a positive aura or something, or they just feel that this person's a good person, something along that line. But I used to tell my therapists that I worked with, give me your toughest cases, the ones you can't reach, I'll reach them. And I did. So that's part of my passion, is helping kids. And I would ask people, if there was no such thing as money, I'll ask you this right now. If there was no such thing as money, what would you be doing with your life?
Doing exactly what I'm doing.
Right on.
I mean, literally would be doing exactly what I'm doing. And that's why it makes it easy to get up in the morning, and no matter how chaotic and crazy the world is or will continue to get, this is what I'm here to do.
I hear you. I asked my mother, who has 2 master's degrees, the same question. And she goes, that's preposterous. What do you mean if there was no such thing as money? There's always been money. She couldn't even answer the question. And that's my dad. He's like, I'd be a farmer. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. That kind of answer. Myself, my answer would be similar to my dad's. I would have an orchard, and it would be stuff like apples or oranges or something like that. And I'd put a sign out front, and it would say, help yourself. And if you know someone that's hungry, grab a little extra for them. And I'd also help children find their true divine purpose for being here, just cultivating them what it is that they're interested in and showing them ways that might expand those ideas. So be something along those lines. But yeah, if there's no such thing as money, a lot of people don't even take that into consideration, because money was not even an object years ago. I mean, back in the day of like Benjamin Franklin and all, they were their own jobs in the daytime. At night, they were inventors. They did things. Nowadays, what do people do? They work a job that they hate for 40 hours, get home, they watch TV with a remote in their hand. Yeah, drink. Everything that takes them away from their true spiritual purpose for being here. And that's intentional too. Orwell nailed it when he said that, basically people are going to be involved in gambling and drinking alcohol and all this stuff. We're already there. We're already there. That movie Idiocracy is almost a narrative for what's going on in today's world.
So tell me, take us back into child trafficking. Is it's a what's happening and who's behind it and give us something here.
Okay, well, from what I understand, this is why the borders are open. There was what, 200, 300,000 people, children that were unaccounted for under the Biden regime. And where are they going? What's going on? Recently, we just had Halloween. That's a huge night for sacrifice and child abduction as well. Stuff goes on. When you look at Alex Jones's infiltration of the Bohemian Grove, and they're sacrificing a mock, they're doing a mock sacrifice ceremony. Was it really a mock? How do we know? Did they actually sacrifice someone? And even if it wasn't, why would they even emulate something as sick as that? What they say, though, there's tunnels, underground tunnels. We heard about, was it that pizza place in Washington, D.C., Disneyland, Disney World, Hugh Hefner's house. There's all these underground tunnels that are used to move these children. And it's got to come to an end. And to bring awareness to this is part of the reality of what's going on. You really can't bury your head in the sand, because what if that was your child or children that's being trafficked? That's I couldn't imagine that, and it's worth bringing awareness to.
I think I saw an article recently, but they show up every now and again. 50 children have been rescued from such and such a place, or 150. I think it was, I don't even remember what city. But what do people need as far as, like, people say, this is a lot of hearsay and this, those tunnels, I don't believe that crap, this and that. What can we give them to assist them in realizing that there's a truth to this that's going on about all of it?
I think it's a matter of just constantly putting it out there, not being afraid to talk about it or share videos or articles or whatever about it, because that normalizes the conversation of it. Instead of it being taboo, all of a sudden it's getting out into the open. And we're seeing this happen more and more, even on the mainstream media. At some point, they can't hide from what's going on. They can't hide from all this stuff. And it's not just, it's all these celebrities and politicians and everyone, they're about to get busted big time. And the mainstream media won't be able to cover for them.
Kind of wild for those of us that have our eyes open. It seems like everything it's like it's not even being hidden anymore. I mean, not to get political, but some of the people that have come out in support of Harris just throw out J-Lo, and it happens, in the week that the video of her naked at P. Diddy's party and all this stuff, and then she's standing up there shilling for Harris, and it's like, you gotta wonder how people can take the system and what's going on seriously, and how they can keep kind of just pretending, or like, oh, Beyonce's supporting this, or oh, J-Lo's supporting this, I'm going to go along with it. And it's just like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, it's beyond me sometimes. And I try and talk about it with people, and people don't want to see it. They don't want to know.
No. And the hypocrisy behind it all is rather astounding. After J Lo made her speech, somebody asked her, as she was signing autographs and stuff, somebody asked her about the connection, the P. Diddy connection, and then she hurriedly ran away without answering that question. Uh,
Or
Cardi B, Cardi B was one of the people that spoke for Kamala Harris, and
talk about a puppet. The
yeah,
prompter went down, and she didn't even know what the she couldn't even talk. She
patience, where are you? Patience.
somebody bring me my freaking cell phone so I know what to say.
Yep, yep. And not just that, there's a side by side of her afterwards, where they give she gives her speech, and then on the right hand side of the video is of her complaining about um, these men that she would date when she was younger, how she would sleep with them, drug them, and steal their money. And this is somebody that endorsed Kamala. Yeah, crazy. It's not hearsay. It's not a deep fake. It's actually her when she was younger.
It's just crazy.
It
It's
is.
really crazy, and yet here we are watching it all unfold. What are some of the other things that are going on? You talked about when we were texting back and forth. You talked about a particular scam.
Yeah. This one. There's a whole group of people that you can clump together because they're pushing the same narrative. They're parroting the same words, same crap, and it's about Nasara Jasara. Nasara came around originally, according to the history of Nasara. It began in 1978, and that was with the Baskerville family, who were farmers, and they were trying to show this. Oh, what was it? I guess they were having issues with the government trying to take their land and this and that. So they brought aboard somebody, a lawyer, and it ended up ballooning into something huge, but nothing to what it is right now. What it is right now, actually, there was a guy. His name was Harvey Barnard, and he made an academic exercise out of this whole Baskerville case, and he called it Nasara, and that was a way to help the farmers have support so they don't lose their land to the government. And that would I think Harvey Bernard was I think he was a really good guy. I think he wanted the best for these farmers. But then this woman comes along by the name of Shani Candace Goodwin, and she was the one that said, "Oh, with Nasara, there'll be no more IRS, and everybody will get this amount of money and this and that." And she's the one that made up all that fictitious bullshit that we still hear to this day. That the same group of parroting puppets are reiterating to everyone. The thing is, because Nasara, Jasara, both of them are based on lies, the crap that they're pushing right now, that goes against universal law. And it can never come to fruition. That doesn't mean that there isn't something that's out there that wouldn't benefit all of humanity. Like, for example, here in the United States, or even in the world. What if hypothetically, what if the Roman Catholic Church was held for their crimes against humanity and their net worth was liquidated to create financial wealth for everyone and distributed throughout the world? That's a possibility. In the United States, what if we actually had access to our social security numbers that have been traded on Wall Street for years? That could be a possibility. But Nasara Jasara, that'll never happen. It's
I will
based on lies.
Now, a lot of people that are going to be listening to this haven't heard anything about it. This is going to be the first time they've heard about it. So how is it being presented right now? And the people that believe in it, and the people that are doing podcasts about it, what is it that they're presenting to people and trying to sell people on?
The same crap as each other. Charlie Ward, Michael Jaco, Santa Surfing, the whole group of parrots are saying the same thing. that it's coming, it's inevitable, and they keep saying, "Oh, here's proof of it," and then there's no proof. There's never any proof.
But
It's
what
this.
are the details of what they're saying it is? Someone's listening right now, and this is the first time they've heard of Nasara Jasara, and they're like, "Wait a sec, what the hell is this?"
Well, it's a number of lies, and let me see if I can pull them up right now for you. But yeah,
There's a
it,
Most people aren't familiar with it. The people that are familiar with it are kind of adamant that it's going to happen. And then there's a group of us that are aware of it that just don't really believe it at all.
here's what it boils down to, that there, and I'm in that second group. I actually don't believe it. I would love for it to happen, but it's been around since 1978 for 46 years. Charlie Ward, you can't spell Charlie without the word Lie. Charlie Ward said that it came around in the late 1950s, which makes it even worse because that means it's been over 60 years and nothing's come to fruition. So anyway, the Nisara Jasara, here are some of the talking points that they're all parroting and regurgitating that were lies by Shani Candace Goodwin. Cancel all credit card debts, mortgages, and other banking obligations. Cancels income tax, removes the IRS, creates a 17% fixed non-essential position. I don't understand, some tax thing. Increases benefits for senior citizens, returns constitutional right in all courts and legal issues. I mean, this is all stuff everybody would jump on board on this. You'd be a fool to say, well, that doesn't sound like a bad thing. Well, it is, because it's all based on lies. It's according to Charlie Ward. If it's been around since the late 1950s, it's been over 60 years. How long are you going to believe this bullshit? You may as well say, if you're going to talk about Nasara, once upon a time, before you, as a preface to anything that comes after that in regards to Nasara.
People want to believe it because who doesn't want their debt wiped away? Who doesn't
Yeah.
want the IRS abolished and everything else? But it's the same old stuff all the time. You know, I've been hearing about this stuff for so many years, and it's just like I know people who put their lives on hold for this to happen and are planning for it to happen. And it's like, you got to just get past it. And I'm like, hey, if it happens, great, bring it on. I
Yeah.
gladly accept my debts to be wiped away. I gladly accept the IRS to be abolished, but we can't live our lives by this.
No, not at all. And because it sounds so enticing and something that everybody could jump aboard on, people are afraid to question it. I question everything. And if you go back, I've got 3 articles on N5D. I've got several videos on the N5D YouTube channel where I talk about Nasara and the whole history of it, and tie it all together with the truth, facts, and receipts, which is a lot of people don't have. They won't give you those receipts on, here's the proof. This is why I'm calling these people out, or this is what they're saying is bullshit.
Now, is this tied to the revaluation that people talk about, or is that something different?
Oh God, that's more hot air and bullshit. The revaluation, the quantum financial system, these are all huge red flags, man. When people like Charlie Ward and Michael Jaco, Santa Surfing, when they're all talking about this crap, and they got their own little circle, they pump each other up and push each other out there. And I'm not big on cliques. I don't like little groups like that all parrot the same bullshit, that they're afraid to speak their own minds. You know, it's the hive mind mentality.
What do they have to gain by pushing these lies?
Support from each other and gathering more members because they're pushing and supporting each other's groups. They grow bigger and bigger and bigger, but they're only growing bigger through lies. I'm not saying everything they say is lies. I'm sure there's good information from everyone that's out there that's within that group, but that's how they do it. You know, you combine, you know, 10% disinfo with 90% info, you know, and it gets people going and it hooks them into it. You know, myself, I just rather put the truth out there, and if it comes down to calling out somebody, well, so be it. That's the way it is. The truth is the truth, and it has its own vibration, and it's going to rise. You're going to rise to that level of whatever vibration it is of the truth.
Wow. Now, I said before we started the show, before we started recording, I said, I don't really want to talk about politics, but I just want to go there for a second. What do
Okay.
you think is going to happen we're recording this Monday afternoon. We'll be posting this just after midnight on Wednesday morning. So that's the morning after the election. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, if you look into the crystal ball,
We're going to talk about this.
logically, one of my writers just put out a an astrology article that I posted yesterday on N5D, and at the end he makes his prediction, and then he told me, he said, you don't have to publish this, the prediction part. I'm like, it doesn't matter, honestly, and that's fine. I disagree with his prediction. He predicted that Kamala would win, and Allie and I have done numerous shows. We have a show on Tuesday nights where we look into our tarot cards, and we get asked numerous questions on about everything that's going on in the world, and oftentimes we get asked about who's going to win. And as timelines can change. So you can ask us this week, maybe next week the timeline has changed. We've seen timelines change tangibly through the Mandela effect. What I think, and the last time I checked with Allie, we both say that Trump will win. Now, here it is, Wednesday, 12:01, and there's a good chance that there will not be a winner declared at this point because they're still waiting for votes to come in, and we may not know for a few more days.
Right.
How's that for an answer?
That's an answer. That's an answer, Greg. So, rigged, manipulated.
Oh yeah, they already found out in Pennsylvania. I just saw an article where children up to 8 years old had been registered to vote. 8 years old.
And are these the ones that are trafficked?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But
Right.
but who knows? I mean, geez, And then we're finding out that so many other people who have tried to vote, votes were already cast for them, even though they hadn't voted yet. Apparently, there was some kind of they're just going out and taking people's names without. For example, there's like some NFL rock the vote or something thing, something on the NFL network where they talk about register to vote. Well, the NFL already has a pact with the Democrats. I saw an ad featuring Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. But there's a connection that they already have. The NFL is very woke. They're pushing all this woke bullshit. So it wouldn't surprise me, and I'm not saying this is true, but it wouldn't surprise me if the NFL, with all the names that they gathered, passed those names on to some other organization who then said, fuck it, they're all Democrats now. No matter what they registered as, we're going to make them, their votes are going to be all for Kamala. It wouldn't surprise me if that happened. And I'm not saying there's voter fraud. I guarantee it. There's voter fraud on the right as well. There's voter fraud every year on both sides. It just seems like there's exceedingly more on the left than there is on the right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So all of this going on. This is Wednesday. People are watching this. What half the people wanted something, the other half wanted something, or however it boils down. What's the glue to keep us all together?
Doesn't matter. None of it matters. You want the less of two evils, you still get an evil. What matters is really, I made a post recently about you know, and I'm going to do a screen share real quick
Yeah.
on this. Whoops. Hang on. But yeah, I made a post recently on Facebook, and it's so true. And to me, this is what matters. And it says, here's a shout out to my Democrat liberal friends who put up with my rhetoric as I do with them, but still love me for who I am as I do with them without judgment or political bias. Friendship is much more important than politics. No matter who wins this or any other election, I'm grateful for your friendship. You all rock. And that's so true. I've got friends who are liberal, and we don't talk politics. It doesn't matter. I know not to bring that topic up. They don't bring it up with me. And our friendships are still solid throughout the years. And, I love them all for that. So none of this shit matters. What matters are those connections and the friendships.
We saw so much division during COVID related to vaccines, tearing families apart. We've seen that same type of division in the election season, and it's being pushed by the media. And it takes us back to this divide and conquer scenario, but it's refreshing to I saw that post of yours and loved it. It's refreshing to have people out there posting that way. I mean, you obviously have strong feelings about it. As do I, and we've chosen, the lesser of two evils that we would say are the lesser of two evils. And yet to be able to put that out there and realize that there's a bigger picture, and that bigger picture involves us, really sticking together because, these mini battles, as it were, of an election are nothing compared to what we're being asked to step up to and rise up to.
When I was living in New York, Hillary was running for senator. And I knew eventually that she would run for president. And I figured, okay, well, I'll vote for Hillary because she'll need to show what she did for New York. She didn't do shit for New York. It was horrible. She was one of the worst senators I've ever seen in New York. But I voted for her. I voted for her husband at one point. I voted for independent, Ross Perot 1 year. I voted for Ron Paul 2 years. Ron Paul was my favorite candidate of all. And I understand that he's going to be brought aboard under Kennedy if Trump wins. So I think that would be fantastic. I remember when Ron Paul ran, though, there was a Democrat that I liked a lot. His name is Dennis Kucinich. And I always thought that would be the greatest ticket right there. I don't care who is president, who's vice president, Ron Paul, Dennis Kucinich, have them run together because they thought so much alike. And they had the same values, core values that everybody would agree with, unless you're an anarchist or somebody on the far left that likes burning down shit. And that's what's going to happen. You want to look into a crystal ball. If Trump wins, you guarantee the same playbook is going to come out with the burning of cities and rioting and all this shit. Same shit. The left is so predictable.
So in the introduction, I read that post that caught my attention in the last week or so, and you talked about 9/11 and chemtrails. The truth has been out about 9/11 since almost the very, very beginning. The truth about chemtrails, I mean, geez, it goes back so many years. And yet, to this day, on my posts on Facebook, I still get people telling me I'm crazy about geoengineering and climate engineering. We see people, about 9/11, the posts saying we'll never forget. And I'll never forget that it was our shadow government and the huge corporations that did that. But the people that did those posts are saying we'll never forget those, the Osama bin Laden and the narrative that they've been sold. What does it take? So many people have come out about 9/11 and saying this couldn't possibly happen to these buildings the way they said it did. What does it take to get people awake? I mean, I had Dane Wigington on 3 weeks ago from geoengineeringwatch.org. And I watched his documentary again called The Dimming, and it is heavy stuff. Like what is in our bodies and in my grandson's body already, not even a year old, because you can't get away from it in this reality. It's like, what does it take for people to understand that and understand that all they need to do is say, stop. The buck stops here. And yet they want to say, oh, just because there's patents doesn't mean they're doing it. You watch that video, The Dimming, and there are scientists saying, yeah, this is exactly what we're doing. This is exactly what we're spraying. And it's people just don't want to go there, or they can't go there for some reason. Does it matter?
It better matter. I mean, if what they're trying to do is block the sun, we had that bullshit narrative back in the 1980s about global warming, and when they realized that that's not true, they changed it to climate change, and they're always changing the bullshit around. But what they're not telling people is that if you look at the grand scale, it's cyclical. It goes in cycles. You're going to have your ice ages, and you're going to have your hotter decades, years, whatever. But it's all cyclical. It's kind of like astrology. It looks at the cycles of time. Well, this is one of the cycles of times that comes up and down. If they're spraying all this chemtrail nanoparticles in there, and it's not only blocking the sun, but it's getting in our air, food, and water supplies, it's really eugenics, the culling of the population without our consent. And that alone should be concerning to everyone. I do not consent to this bullshit.
Right. Now, let's just spin this a little bit. In what you wrote, it said, in the end, none of this drama really matters. The only thing that truly matters is love. But here we are getting sprayed. It's a cloudy, rainy day here outside of Wichita, but they've been spraying all week.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I get that none of the drama really matters. Every once in a while I post that graphic that says none of this is real, but at the same time, people are dying. People are getting early onset Alzheimer's and dementia from the aluminum that's coming in. People are still, lining up for COVID boosters and the flu shot, while standing in line, later that day at McDonald's. It's like, where's that? What's the fine line of none of this drama really matters, and it's all about love? And I get it. I live that. Okay. My tour is called The Tour of Love. My website is itsallgood.com. I mean, I get it, but then there's that fine line of at what point do we tip the scale? And there's not a lot of us. I mean, we always heard it was 144,000 of us, being in that right mind, and conscious awareness and high frequency can shift the whole thing. What's your take on it based on everything I just spouted out?
I think that you and I, and probably all of your viewers, are already there, that it doesn't matter, all the shit that's going on. But what we're doing is we're still delving into these topics to help awaken others. It's almost like that stupid No Child Left Behind bullshit program that George Bush was pushing years ago. But it's almost as if, no soul left behind. That I think many of us are compassionate and want to see people awaken to the truth. And that's part of the journey. many people start out with chemtrails or 9/11 or something like that. But eventually, you go down that rabbit hole and you realize that the only thing that really exists and matters is love. If you look at people that had near death experiences, crossed over to the other side of the veil, a lot of times they'll say, God, I can't believe I took this life so seriously. And then they feel that love. I had a I had a vision back in 2015 or so where this white light floods the planet. And at that moment, the only thing you feel is unconditional love to a magnitude you've never felt before.
Sounds like DMT.
Imagine and it lasted. I felt it. I tangibly felt it. At that point, when that happens, you know, your boss that you hate, who's an a-hole, doesn't matter. Money, politics, government, and religion, none of that shit matters. When you're basking in that amount of unconditional love, none of this shit around us matters. There was a woman, I had a beach meetup, N5D beach meetup on Siesta Key. And this woman, she's a registered nurse, and she had a near-death experience. And she said that when she went over, she was shown the exact same thing that I was talking about right now. I mentioned that at one of our meetups. She said, I agree 100%. That's exactly how you're going to feel when this happens. So it's love. It's the love vibration that's coming in. I firmly believe could only be my truth and her truth, but at least I had corroboration of that vision. And I think that's where we're heading. And none of this stuff really matters. None of it really, really does.
What about the world we're leaving for our children, our grandchildren, the next 7 generations?
Uh,
Does it how do we come into alignment with that? I mean, I like this, none of it matters. I mean,
yeah.
I've been touring since 2010. I'll do my 800th event this next weekend in Omaha, Nebraska. We've been smart with
Wow.
our money. We own our property outright in Idaho. I don't need to spend 11 and a half months out of the year on the road doing what I do, raising people's frequencies and sharing the love. Sometimes it's like, maybe I just hang out on the beach like Greg does sometimes and just watch the sunset and be present and just, be with the people I love and not get all riled up by this and not put myself in a position where people are ready to put me down because they're not ready to open their eyes. What about all that? I mean, what do you think?
Okay. Well, first of all, I am a workaholic. It's probably why I had a quadruple bypass surgery because I'm constantly working. And I got to force myself to go to the beach to get some exercise and some sunshine. And oftentimes, if I might work through breakfast and say, okay, well, I'll go after lunch. And then lunchtime comes around and I'll say, oh, I'll go after dinner and watch the sunset. And then evening comes by and I still am working and well, I'll go tomorrow. I'm a procrastinator. I'll push things off, but I'm also a workaholic. So I have to force myself to go to the beach. But what is the answer in the long run? We've already seen it. There's this truth vibration that's been rising every year. And it seems like the bullshit that people put out is coming back quicker than ever, which means the truth is continuously coming out to the forefront. That's gonna continue. It's not, and all the corruption is going to continue to get exposed, not just with like Epstein or P. Diddy and all the politicians, the actors, the musicians, all this stuff. They're getting exposed. People, won't be able. Some of these people won't be able to walk the street, as it's been said. They're going to have to hide. A lot of people, all these music executives, quit the industry once P. Diddy got busted, and people like Ashton Kutcher are talking about moving to Europe, probably to avoid the backlash of what's going on here, but they can't escape. None of them can. All this shit's coming out. It's going to make the world a better place. So you just got to have faith and know within that this truth continues to rise, and the truth is coming out, and it's getting the lies are boomeranging back faster and faster, more so now than ever before.
I get that what we're doing is we're helping, we're, you and me and so many others on some level have signed up to bring the rest of us, to bring all of us into the golden age. But are we, from a spiritual, metaphysical standpoint, are we going to be able to just heal the earth after what humanity has done to it?
That's a good question. I think, in my own opinion, I think we move beyond this third dimensional reality. So, whatever gets left behind, that might be for those who haven't, like Dolores Cannon said, all you have to be is 51% positive vibration. I think they mentioned that in the law of one as well. That's not hard to do. But if you're not at that 51% positive vibration, you get left back with everything that you pretty much wanted to begin with. So it's a win-win. That's what, these people that have been suppressing humanity for the longest time end up going or having. I'm happy for them, because that's what they wanted to begin with. I don't want this crap. I don't agree with it. I do not consent. I think we're moving beyond it, though. And I think it's a spiritual evolution that's going to move us beyond all this third dimensional stuff.
I love it. Like the bifurcation where it just
Yeah.
based
Yeah.
on our beliefs and our energies, our frequency, we take one path or the other. I like that a
Yes.
lot. That feels good. I've often
Yeah.
said, I talked about it in my last podcast. People say to me, how can I guarantee, or how do I know I'm going to? And then they frame it the way their belief system is, heaven, new world, ascension, the golden
Right.
age. And what I've always said to people is look honestly and objectively at your life and ask yourself, are you more than 51% in service to others, or are you more than 51% in service to self? And if you're more than 51% in service to others, doesn't matter your religious beliefs, doesn't matter who you identify as your God or anything like that, you're going to go to whatever that is. And so I'm a firm believer in that. And I liked you bringing that up. And it even sounds nicer that it's 51% of your positive energy and everything. And that's what we share with people. That's people feel the reason kids come running up to you, and probably dogs and other animals to you and
Yeah.
your daughter when you're on the beach, is because you're holding a frequency and an energy that is comfortable, and I've had those same experiences all over the world. And it's just like, what do we carry? And whatever it is we carry in our hearts is felt on some level. I think that's why I trigger a lot of people, because it brings up stuff they're not ready to look at or address, and I'm okay with that. I don't mind triggering people. I don't do it on purpose, but I don't mind, because I realize it's not my stuff that they're taking issue with. It's something within them.
Uh-huh. This is I'm going to show it. This is where I was talking about my friend Rosie, and she Rosie Neal, and this is Shasta, uh, one of Rosie's German shepherds, and I was house sitting for Rosie. And when I first came over, Shasta was protective of Rosie, as he should have been. And he kind of nipped at me when I held my hand out to him, but I knew I would win him over. Before Rosie left for her vacation that day with her family, I took this picture of him laying on my shoulder, sleeping. So yeah, even dogs will definitely sense that energy that you have, and he felt the trust and the love, and I can't blame him for wanting to be protective of Rosie. That's what dogs do. But I wasn't scared of him, and I just offered my love out to him, and he accepted it. So
I love that you bring up Rosie Neal. We both have a friendship with her and a deep respect for who she is. She's got an EE
Yes.
System Center in Cape Coral, Florida, and she and her daughter are definitely some of the good ones out there. And I appreciate that we both have a good connection there.
Yes. Love Rosie. Wonderful lady.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing what she came here to do and holding her ground, and you got to love that. So, Greg, we're gonna sign off here in a little bit. We've talked about holding a high frequency, being positive, uh trying not to get caught up in the drama because it takes people over, and realizing that all that matters is love. You want to go a little deeper into any of that before we leave? I like the last couple of few minutes to just be at that super high frequency, and you carry that, and so here you go.
No, I think you pretty much nailed it. And for everybody that's watching right now, you guys are already there. You're at that 51 plus percent. But continue doing what you're doing, putting out the truth. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Like if you're standing in line at a grocery store, you can always bring up something like, wow, I can't believe the GMOs in this one product or something, or isn't it funny how best food is on the perimeter of a grocery store and all the processed food, whatever it is that you can bring up into conversation. And I know that it's not easy for a lot of you, especially I know that my N5D followers, about 80% of us are introverts because I've done polls on my articles. So I know it's not easy necessarily for an introvert to do that, but it's different at a grocery store because it's a short interaction and then you leave. And I think most introverts are empaths also, and that's one of the things we don't want that energy attaching to us. So we go in quickly and we come back out and get back to our own space. And that's kind of the way it is. So if you're just doing a quick conversation with somebody standing in line at whatever, you can put those words out. Continue doing that because you're making a huge difference, whether you believe it or not.
That's awesome. I appreciate you, Greg, and I'm really pleased that you made a great recovery from your heart related
You
um
too.
stuff, and it's nice, it's like, yeah, it's not time for me to leave yet. It's obviously not time for you to leave yet. I also have loved watching your relationship with Allie, and the happiness and joy and deep love that you two have found within each other brings a smile to my face. That's incredible, and I thank you for being a guest on the It's All Good show. People, get out there, check out n5d.com, and Gregg Prescott. Wow, it's just naming you after a city in Arizona. Anyway, uh, really check out the information. It's good. He comes from the right place, and we're all here to make a difference. And let's step up and do this together. Thank you so much, Greg.
You're welcome. And let's see. I guess today would be the day after my anniversary. So with Allie. So happy anniversary to my beautiful wife.
Happy anniversary to the two of you. The more we find the partners for us and share and express our love, the more beautiful the universe becomes. So we're all celebrating you and your love.
Right on. I appreciate you very much, Mark. Keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Thank you.
All
We'll be
right,
in
man.
touch.
All right.